Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my vlog, where it's both my mission and my pleasure to highlight my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you, giving you specific takeaway. All that way, your journey can be at least a little bit easier. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. If you haven't yet subscribed, I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. It truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So, let's get into this. I realize it's been about 2 weeks since I posted something, and that's for a number of reasons, which I'm going to get into right now, right? So, just a lot of things on the plate, and I have a friend who's working on this documentary about a very interesting subject, but it takes place in East LA. That's kind of the location of it. And so we went to East LA to film this interview, and it was just so fascinating to go to a place that even though I live in Los Angeles is a big sprawl, right? And East LA is quite far from me, quite far from him, to be honest, too, even though he's closer by I would say 30 minutes. And it's just always so interesting to learn more about the place, whether you inhabit it or are just visiting or whatever else, and to learn a part of the city's history was fascinating through this single interview. And obviously the documentary, and I'm being vague about what the subject matter is because, that's his to tell, but, all the same, it's a history of a section of LA, and even though, like I said, I just did this one interview with him, it was very fascinating to observe and learn and just learn some history, right? When we sort of go down that route, it allows us more empathy, it allows us more understanding, and just satisfies a certain curiosity of how we got here, in a sense, right? Even if it's not you directly. So I thought that was very interesting. And, if I could go into the subject matter, it would be all the more interesting. But sadly, I cannot. Still, it was also just great this is we've known each other for a number of years. And, I've done favors for him. He's done favors for me. But this was the first time we actually did something together, and he really liked the way the interview turned out. It was just basically me and him. I brought my equipment, my camera, my audio gear, lights, and so forth. And so we knew it was a big interview, but it was great how it all turned out, and he really loved working with me, and I liked working with him. So it was great. Then later that week, I had a chance to tour the Amity Foundation and learn more about that. And if you're unfamiliar, the Amity Foundation, I don't know everything about it. I just know kind of what I saw and how it, works within LA. And the Amity Foundation, as I understood it, is this foundation that is meant to help rehabilitate inmates after prison back into society, right? And they have about 20,000 people right here in Los Angeles that they're helping. There's about 200 people within the facility that I saw. They lived there for 2 years, and it's almost like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like a college in a way, where they're learning, they're doing stuff, they're living there, they work a job. And the reason I'm bringing this up is it's just sometimes stuff like this just fuels you, right? To know, this was an organization, again, within my own town that I was not aware of. And it's good to know that people like this exist out there, that are organizations like this are out there that are doing good work. And obviously we need more foundations and organizations like this. But the fact that, day in, day out, doing this type of work which is rewarding in the long term, but certainly not in the short term, and the funding and so forth. You're always battling resources, much like, you know, any sort of indie artist. But the fact that it just warms you, right? And I'm also a big advocate of, you know, as an artist, you can't just put your head in the sand to what's going on in the world, right? In order to be a better artist and reflect kind of what's there and bring meaning to your art, you have to, you know, see what's out there. And, you know, the age-old thing is, you know, well, what cause do you sort of get behind? And, you know, the answer is there's so many things in this world that need help that it really doesn't matter. Just pick one and dedicate yourself to that, right? And I'm not saying like this is it for me, but there's organizations that I work with that potentially, you know, can have a partnership with this one, and we can help each other out, and that's great, right? Partnerships is, you know, in business all the time, it's a way to really elevate the resources of two companies. And so why not utilize that for goodwill, for elevating society, right? Excuse me. And so, yeah, it was just fascinating to bear witness to that and all the good that does exist, you know, because sometimes that gets lost, right? And it's important to be reminded of the good things in life, and just the good work people are doing to try to make the world a better place, right? That often gets overlooked. And so I just want to highlight that, you know, and just be aware, like, you know, and it's not just about the Amity Foundation, it's about whatever thing that exists near you, you know, and you know, how can you get involved in something within your own community to just bring about a little bit of help, because it goes a long way. The other big thing was, you know, we filmed out the rest of what we needed to in terms of the movie. So I was able to pop in and out for a weekend in Colombia, which was funny because one of my friends was like, "Wait, so how's that going to look? Like, you're just basically just going to go down to Colombia for the weekend and come back? Like, aren't you like worried that customs is going to be like, what the hell?" And luckily, no problems in that regard. But yeah, I went down, filmed the rest of what we needed to film, and this was primarily just B-roll stuff, you know, just a point of view shots and you know, establishing things just to give it some context. Because and by the way, this is for my movie that we filmed in November. We've been in post-production on and are getting closer and closer to completion. But yeah, we just needed, when we filmed in November, we filmed focusing on the actors and getting all that stuff. And now, as we had an edit of the movie, we could look, okay, you know, where do we want to kind of just establish them so the audience feels a little bit more oriented. And also, there was this one actress that we needed to film, just a couple of quick close-ups. So, you know, she's down there, and so I got a chance to do that. And easy breezy in that sense, right? But it's also interesting how when you have something very specific that you know you need to get, it's almost a higher pressure situation because, like, let's say, you know, I need a shot of a building. Well, it has to work in context with everything else, and so you need to get it specifically, right? Specific angle, specific, like, movement and whatever else. And, you know, sometimes that can be a little bit nerve-wracking. And so, you know, I have like so many takes. Like, the most takes I have in the entire movie are these just like quick shots that we need to specifically slot in, which is, you know, interesting, but makes sense, right? If you really think about it. But it was just great to kind of go down there, see my friends. Also, it was interesting because I wasn't told this ahead of time, but I went down during election weekend. So they actually vote on Sunday. And a couple things happened. Number one, So there's no alcohol 3 days preceding the election and then a day after the election. So, all stores, all bars, no alcohol being sold because they wanted people to have a sober mind, if you will, for the elections. And also just seeing how they were voting was very interesting, right? It felt cool, for lack of a better term, to really be able to observe, not this like ultra historic moment, but a historic moment nonetheless. Voting is a big deal. Now, this was the midterms for them, or something akin to the midterms, so it wasn't, or primaries, I think. So it wasn't like this big general election, but nonetheless, still a big moment. And so I got a chance to witness that. Now, the downside was, part of what I wanted to film was some nightlife there. And when bars aren't serving alcohol, they're not really making money. So a lot of bars were closed down and not a lot of nightlife happening. So, for me personally, I could care less in terms of getting footage. Not the best, right? Excuse me. So, but I got what I needed to, and I came back and so forth, and it was good. It was a worthwhile trip. We got what we needed to. The thing of it though, in order to make that happen, I basically have to get ahead on work and other projects and so forth. And so when you kind of really think about it, in the past couple of weeks, I've definitely been pushing myself more and more. And so I kind of run my body down a little bit, and I needed a much needed reset. So I got the common cold, right? And it's also fascinating when, we've been so focused on COVID for so long as the disease that, you tend to forget that there's other diseases out there. And so luckily I did not have COVID, but I did have the cold, and I'm coming off of that now. As much as it wasn't terrible, but it did slow me, for me, whenever I get sick, I try to make it a point to just go to the bare minimum and focus on getting better. And so I did not have the ability to really, my ideal was I come back from Colombia, we put all the stuff in, and we were slated to do that and essentially get to what we call picture lock, meaning that the visuals are all in, and then sound, color correction, visual effects, music can all now start to be finessed and worked on. Well, that did not happen, unfortunately. I just did the bare minimum of what needed to get done and focused on getting better. But in some sense, it was a good reset button. I think sometimes we need that every now and then. Not that I'm saying hey, go get sick, or I want you sick, but yeah, it kind of reorients you in terms of, okay, yeah, I gotta kind of reprioritize. And I don't think there was any way around certain things. One of the reasons why I'm pushing in this way is because we're trying to have the film be ready for the Cannes Film Festival. And yes, it's a long shot, but we submitted. We got the receipt that our application is fully accepted, so we're good there. And on April 14th, I have now learned that is when we actually find out whether we got in or not. And so, the team and I are on the same page. We will continue moving forward as if we got in. That way we will be ready. And if we don't get the good news, then we'll adjust accordingly, take our foot off the gas pedal, give ourselves a little bit more breathing room, and, that's okay. We'll see. But as of now, we're operating as if we got into the festival, and, hopefully we do. That's the dream, right? So that is also, that's the reason why I've been, essentially pushing in this way. Because one of the main components of all of this is getting to picture lock, right? Having those things ready so that way color correction, visual effects, music, and sound have the time they need to really perfect their aspects, right? And if I'm still editing the movie, that's not possible. And so I want to give him as much time as I can. And so that relies on me getting it to picture lock. So, so I've been pushing towards that. As part of that, right now, all those things are kind of in motion at least. The colorist, I've spoken to him. He knows exactly what we're looking for. He's ready to do it. He gave me also like his tech specs of what he needs for me to deliver the movie to him. Great. Edgar, our sound designer, he already has a pass the movie, so he knows the areas that are problematic, that need to be ADR'd. He can start to think, pull sounds and think of ideas and so forth. Not necessarily place all that in, but just start collecting, right? Music, the themes are being overall worked on, and then the specificity of hitting timing, that'll come once it's all there, right? Visual effects, same thing. They're being preliminary worked on, and then we'll finesse it once things are picture locked. So it's all moving forward in that sense. The other aspect of it is now I'm starting to schedule ADR with the actors, and what that is basically sessions to record voiceover with the actors for stuff that needs to be re-recorded, right, for whatever reason. And so things are moving forward well. One of the interesting parts was there's this shot that I've been trying to get for a number of times in the movie. It's a very specific shot, right? And 6 times it took me to get. Not literally 6 takes, but 6 times going to this place and trying to get this one shot. And that's because of, specifically Bogota rain. In Bogota, it can be sunny, and then within 20 minutes, all of a sudden, it's like the biggest downpour of your life, and you don't know how long it's going to last. And so, we've been in situations where we're heading there, and it's sunny, it's bright, and all of a sudden, it just goes pitch black, and it's raining and thundering and so forth. So, finally, after 6 tries, I got the shot that I've been looking for. And one of my friends, that lives down there, he said oh, you got lucky. And I was like, that's not luck. This is persistence. This is my 6th attempt at this. This is determination. And that's very interesting to me as I kind of reflect on that, because I think listen, it's not to say that luck has nothing to do with the creative process or life. It certainly does, but when talent meets opportunity and so forth, they talk a lot about that. It's all these different things that go into it, right? You create serendipitous moments by, having this resolve and moving forward. I'm reminded of, for me, this the speech from Patch Adams, starring Robin Williams, right? He's in the courtroom scene. You might have seen it. And the entire speech, it's like a 6-minute speech, give or take. And it's beautiful. But at the end, he says this very poignant thing of essentially hey, here today, you have the ability to block me from the coat, because he's fighting to be a doctor, right? The coat and the title. But you can't prevent my curiosity. You can't stop me from learning, gentlemen. Regardless of your decision here today, I will be the best damn doctor the world has ever seen. So you can either have me as an outspoken colleague or an outsider. Either way, I'll probably be viewed as a thorn. And, when I look at now, as we approach the film festival circuit for this movie, and just kind of certain people's reactions to just stuff in general, it's always interesting to me. In essence, that is art, right? There are those gatekeepers, the panel of judges and Patch Adams, who have the ability to prevent Patch from getting the title and the white coat. But regardless, he'll still be a doctor, right? And so, in that sense, I've always taken that to heart, because, whether or not I get into any film festivals, I can still be a filmmaker. Whether or not there's a publisher who wants to publish my book, well, I'll still be an author, both for fiction and nonfiction, right? And this can apply to music and whatever else, right? So do not be deterred by the gatekeepers out there. Stay, your passion cannot be, if you truly, like, this is what you're meant to do, this is what you love, that's what you do, regardless of, the outcome, essentially. And, that does relate to Patch tangentially, at least, where, he makes the argument, because they say, like, what if one of your patients had died? And he's like, what are we so afraid of in terms of death? He makes the argument, like, why can't we treat death with, decency, humanity, and God forbid a little bit humor? You treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat the person, you win no matter what, right? And so in that sense, I think it is applicable to artists in the sense that, if you have a passion and it's your true passion, like, you're not doing it for the money and the fame, then regardless of what anybody else thinks, like, you're going to continue doing what you love. And that's why, for me, when I think about getting that one specific shot, it's probably going to be like 3 seconds in the entire movie, but it's so needed, right? That's the lengths you go to. You go 6 times, and you don't call it luck. It was determination to get it done. Hence why I probably wore myself down, because, like, just that weekend alone is like the 3rd attempt to try to get this damn thing. But that's what it takes. If you really want it sometimes. And so do not be deterred by the gatekeepers. Because here's another interesting kind of aspect to it. People who I knew years ago that were coming into their own, there was a lot of naysayers against them. Some were even called losers. I'll even give you, here's an extreme example. I know I didn't witness this firsthand, but I've heard stories of like people that I know that used to, like, in terms of Jessica Alba, they were like, oh, she'll never make it. She's whatever, X, Y, and Z. And this was like, at a time when she was already kind of in Fantastic Four and other, like, I forget the timing of all the things, but, like, she was, relatively known at the time. And yet there were so many naysayers like, oh, she's making stupid, she's going to ruin her career and so forth. And it's like, it's just so interesting. Like, who are these people to judge ultimately? Because Jessica Alba is certainly doing fine, right? And more than fine. I use that word ironically. And what's been interesting to me is I've seen people that I've interacted with directly be told, their idea's dumb, they'll never make it, whatever. And sometimes to their face, and sometimes, like, just behind their back in a weird way. And that always, like, I never appreciated that. I'm not one to bring people down. And so, like, that definitely rubbed me the wrong way. And, I was not in a position at the time to necessarily say something, whatever. But, I just never liked that aspect of it. And so it feels good that, in spite of those viewpoints from many people that thought they, and these aren't just like people off on the side in, like, people's basements or whatever. Like, these were, like, high industry people that made these, like, proclamations. And so it feels good knowing that they overcame those odds, in a sense. They believed in themselves, they believed in their idea, and they had a work ethic, certainly, to get themselves to what they believed was possible. And that's really inspiring to see, and that is like Patch, because, people have the ability to take away the title and the white coat, but they can't stop your curiosity, they can't stop your work ethic, and at the end of the day, you can still be the best damn doctor that's ever lived, right? It's a metaphor. Apply that to whatever discipline you want. And I think that's really cool when you think about it in that sense. And, it's always, I guess, in a sense, something that I've inhabited, maybe not always, but certainly for the latter few years, And but when I thought about the Patch Adams speech, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. So that's why, you know, it would be a dream to get into the Cannes Film Festival. But if we don't, we don't. So, yeah, that's what I got for you. You know, thank you for taking time to tune in and listen. I do apologize to my patrons because I was sick with the cold. I didn't have a chance to, you know, deliver on the stuff that I know I'm supposed to, but I will. I'll make it up to you. If you have no clue what's going on, well, I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/PhilSvitek. It's a way to support what I do, and really it allows for more direct interactions, right? It's not to say that if you comment down below or hit me up on social media at PhilSvitek that I won't listen to your thoughts and comments about, you know, the stuff that I'm putting out, but through my Patreon page, it allows us to have just more direct interactions and stuff like that, right? So I think that's something neat if you so choose to go that route. Also, in general, you know, I have a movie out already. Can't wait to say that I have 2 movies out, but that'll come. Right now I just have the 1 movie, but I do have 2 books out there and stuff like that. So if you want to support what I do, it's out there. It's linked to in the description box. Check it out. You know, supporting that stuff helps support and allow me to speak on this stuff. So it's all symbiotic and allows you to see just, you know, truly the stuff that I've actually been up to, right? That I talk about week in, week out with this stuff. So thanks so much as always. I appreciate you and hope to see you next time.